So, if someone misses a word, right? If someone doesn't hear one of the words, there was a noise and he didn't hear one of the words. If he reads it from his chumash, then he's yotze the Megillah, because he still heard the vast majority of the Megillah from a kosher Megillah, and he's made up the missing word. If he misses out a word, then he hasn't heard the whole Megillah. If there's a loud noise, he misses one of the words, he hasn't heard the whole Megillah, he's not yotze. If that word that he misses, he reads from inside his chumash, then he's heard the entire Megillah. Right? Most of the Megillah was read from a kosher Megillah. Just the word he missed, he read from his chumash. So he's also yotze. Right? So that's what one should do. If one misses a word, one should read it from inside his chumash. Okay? So we do say the lechatchila is preferable if the entire Megillah is read from a kosher Megillah. Which is why some people have their own kosher Megillah in front of them, and if they miss a word, they can read it from that Megillah. And then the entire Megillah, even the word they missed, they ended up reading from the kosher Megillah.
If he's reading from his own Megillah, right, he treats it more like two scrolls than like a letter. Is that right? He doesn't fold it when he's doing it for himself.
Correct.
That is correct?
Yes.
One more question. It's actually very important to me. These requirements about hearing every word, or if not, replacing it by reading it, all these things. Is this true of any other event in the Jewish world? If you're listening to Torah on a Shabbos, right, you miss a word.
No, this idea of the majority being from a kosher Megillah, this is only by Megillah. It's not by anything else.
And the idea that you must hear every word, or if not hear it, read the word, is that also unique to Megillah? Right.
It's interesting because there's a on the one hand, there's a kula here in Megillah that one only has to have the majority from the kosher Megillah, but doesn't have anything else. On the other hand, there's a chum in that the Megillah is an obligation on every single individual.
Right.
Whereas Kriyas HaTorah is more of an obligation of a tzibur. It is an obligation to everyone because we're all part of the tzibur, but only because we're part of the tzibur.
Right.
It's not an obligation to an individual. If one...
And even the requirement, for virtually all other readings, you're still chayav if you missed a word. Yotze, rather. You're still yotze if you missed a word of the reading. You don't have to go back yourself and reread it.
Torah.
It's not that you're yotze, it's that you were part of the tzibur that read Kriyas HaTorah. If you had to go out to the bathroom in the middle because you had to, then you had to. You missed it.
Right.
It's not so much that you missed it. So
right. But this requirement is unique to Megillah.
It's because Megillah has this obligation on each individual. But it's similar to Zohar. Zohar also has an obligation on each individual.
So actually, that's interesting. If Zohar you missed a word,
so it doesn't help because there's an obligation on each individual, and the entire thing has to be read from the Sefer Torah.
So you haven't fulfilled the obligation if you missed a word.
Right.
You don't want to get to the bathroom. I mean, that happens in the Megillah, you got to really catch up.
Then the Megillah you have to read because you can't miss a word. So in this case where you're catching up, where we said where you should, if you miss a word, you should read to the Megillah, right? So you can't listen to a word and say a word at the same time, right? If he's on to the next word and you say a word, you'd have to read very fast to catch up with him. Right. If you've got a slow balko, you'd be able to catch up pretty quickly. If it's a fast balko, you wouldn't be able to catch up to the next Talmud. But as long as you read less than half the Megillah, as long as more than half the Megillah you heard from the balko, you're yotze. Right? Now, as I said, some people do have a kosher Megillah in front of them, because then even when they're reading themselves, they're reading from a kosher Megillah. But this is not necessarily such a good idea. Because if you have a kosher Megillah in front of you and you're not fluent in reading the Megillah and you make a mistake in one of the words, then it could be that you're not yotze, because if you read a word, it depends how you read the word. But if you read the word very incorrectly, it could be you're not yotze at all. So if one isn't familiar with all the words in the Megillah, it's preferable to have a chumash and not a Megillah, so that one can catch up with them.
Right.
You mentioned about Zachor. We had spoken about it. That it's a chiyuv to hear once a year. Just happened to me, my wife was not feeling well the Shabbos and not able to go. So when they're laying it in the summer, does the Baal Koreh have to have in mind that he's being motzi her her chiyuv of zachor, or does she just have to have in mind?
Yeah, we need the bakar should have has to have. You always need the kavan of the person who's
So I should say something
being
to the bakar that he should have in mind. Anybody who didn't hear it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And if she's coming to shul on Purim, I don't know if she's going to hear it in a house or in a shul. If she comes to a shul, then of course we have the eight that we saw as a machlokas. The Megilla was you can be used through hearing the kriya of the kriya satorah. The kriya satorah we read on Purim morning of Vayova Amalek. We saw the machlokas we can be used to that or not. So yes.
Thank you.
So again, the most common word that people miss is homer. Right? Because the eager beavers start banging for homer before the word's finished. You just hear the hop part sometimes. Right? So that you should read yourself from the. Then you're not going to miss anything because you have the whole
you have
banging
the delay
of
while the banging is going.
If you didn't hear the whole word homon, then you should say it yourself.
It's interesting.
Some Balakura repeat the word homon every time. When they continue, they read it again. I personally, it depends. If I feel that people started banging before I finished the word, then I repeat it. If I think I managed to get the whole word in before they started banging, then I don't.
Yes.
I've heard some Balikore also say the word haman very fast.
Right.
So they don't have a chance to get in.
Right, that's another trick, okay, so let's continue now. And we're up to Sif Hey. Sif Koro Seirugin. Dahainu sheposak bo v'shoho v'achar kach chozar lemokim sheposak. Ha'afili shoho k'tei ligmas kula yotza. If one read it Seirugin, which is defined as he read it and then he had a long break and then he continued reading. Right? Even if the break was long enough to finish the entire Megillah, he's still Yotze. Hagor said more, Va'afilu soch bein time. Even if he spoke in between. Mihu goyarin b'misha soch bein time. Kids will come on some tough study base. However, someone who spoke in the middle, we tell him off. It's not a good thing to do, and we scold him. However, one is Yotze.
I don't understand what it means. For as long as it would take to complete the reading. What is it?
Let's say you take a half-hour break.
Right.
You stop listening, like Michael said, you have to go to the bathroom.
We're asking why is that defined as the amount of time?
I'm trying to understand what that length of time is.
Because there's some places where we find that is the definition of a break long enough to pass or something is the amount of time it would take to finish it if you were to continue from here. Found by Birkus Kriyashma. When we get to Birkus Kriyashma, we'll learn that. One has a long break in Birkus Kriyashma. It can depend, in certain cases, if one waited long enough time to finish the whole of Birkus Kriyashma, then that would be that would invalidate the Birkus Kriyashma. In certain places, that is a defining factor. Here, we're saying it isn't.
I see. Okay.
Okay. Let's just have a look just at the Mishnah Berurah in the middle of Sivkot and Kufutes. In mine, it's 6 lines from the bottom. The last word's on the line. It's abbreviation. There's a full stop and then an abbreviation. V'chol zeh.
This is which.
I'm in the Mishnah Berurah. 6 lines from the bottom. In mine, it's the last word on the line. Abbreviation. Vov chof zayin. V'chol zeh.
Okay.
Right. This is only if the person reading the Megillah spoke. Someone who is listening and he spoke, and he missed a word, he missed some of the laning. Even if he missed just one word, that's come upon him to loyotza. Right? So we mentioned that actual break and actual talking does not invalidate the Megillah. The problem is that by talking he's going to miss hearing some of the Megillah.
Right.
That's the problem. Therefore, everyone should have, this is what we mentioned just before, everyone should have a chumash in front of him. When the children are banging homon, some words from the Shach Tibah who might miss. So al peh. He's yotze through what he reads. Al peh machumash, what he reads from the chumash. V'yotze al koponim di'evet. He's yotze. Okay, so this is what we mentioned. Okay, let's continue next mission. The reason why we tell him off, this person who spoke, so there's a bracha in the beginning of the mitzvah. One should not have a break until one finishes the mitzvah. Let's continue back to the Shulchan Aruch, Sif Vav, top line on page 309. If one reads the Megillah in the incorrect order, he's not Yotze. He read the first, skipped the second, and read the third. Then he read the second. He has to read from where he missed. Right? He can't read in order. Therefore, if one had to go to the bathroom in the middle, and he missed a few psukim in the middle, it doesn't help if he hears the rest of the kriya and then afterwards makes up the missing psukim. Because that's the halacha of kora lemafreya. He read in the correct order. He has to read it in the correct order. Okay? Let's continue. Let's move on immediately. The next halacha is Sif Zayin. HaKoires HaMegillah al peh lo yotza. Okay, someone who reads the Megillah Baal Peh, he's not Yotze. Let's continue Sif Ches. Continue in the Shulchan Aruch at the top. Haloyes sheshomas HaMegillah HaKsuva b'Loshen HaKodesh. So a foreigner, someone who doesn't understand Loshen HaKodesh, who heard the Megillah written in Loshen HaKodesh, and written in even if he doesn't understand a single word, he had the whole Megillah from beginning to end and didn't understand a word of it, except maybe the word Esther and Achashverosh. Yotze Yidei Vasa, he's still Yotze. Doesn't have to understand the Megillah, the main thing is he heard the Megillah. Let's continue. Seif Tes, we continue in the Shulchan Aruch. It was written in Aramaic or any other of the any other language. One's not Yotze unless one understands the language it's written in. However, it was written in Ksav Ivri, but he read it in Aramaic. He didn't read the same language it was written, he translated it as he read it. Lo Yotza, Shanim says they koira al peh, because he's reading by heart. Therefore, neither the reader nor the listener are Yotze.
This means that a Megillah could be written in a language other than Hebrew?
Yes.
You mean the cloth?
Yes, this is another halacha which is specific to Megillah. We only find by Megillah. It can be written in a different language. However, on condition that the person understands that language. We're going to see a problem in a minute, which is why we don't do it. We're going to see the reason why this is not done. Let's continue. Sif halacha yud. Sif yud.
Did you read Hagah?
Hagah aval ein lochush be'ezek ksav ksuva. It doesn't matter if it's written in a different language. Let's continue. Someone who understands a different language, he understands foreign language, and he also understands Loshen HaKodesh. He's not Yotze. And some hold he is Yotze. Now this is written as a stam and a yeshayim, so we pass him like the stam, which means he's not Yotze. So someone who understands Loshen HaKodesh, he wouldn't be able to write it in a different language. Right? So this is the first major limitation. Right? That this Megillah could only be written in a different language for someone who didn't understand Loshen HaKodesh at all. If you understand Loshen HaKodesh...
How can you write in another language if you're translating it?
Again?
If I'm writing it in Chinese, I have to understand Hebrew and Chinese.
No, we're not talking about the scribe. We're talking about the person reading the Megillah. The scribe obviously understood both languages.
Okay.
That's how he managed to write it that way. But now we're talking about the person reading the Megillah.
Okay.
Right? So the person reading doesn't understand. So that's the first major limitation. If he understands it, he wouldn't be able to. If he understands Loshen HaKodesh, he wouldn't be able to.
Meaning, if he understands Loshen HaKodesh, he's required to read it in Loshen HaKodesh.
Right.
So again?
Meaning, if he understands Hebrew,
yes,
he's required to read it in Hebrew.
Correct.
He doesn't have an option to read it in the language.
Correct. Now, the other major limitation, if you have a look now here at the bottom, Sif Kotten Lamed Daled, Mishavos Sif Kotten Lamed Daled. He writes at the bottom line, it's on the bottom line of the page. In every case where we mention these yotze when it's in a different language, the words which we don't understand how to translate that. We don't really understand how to translate that correctly. So these words have to be written in Lashon HaKodesh. Right? It would have to be very accurate. It has to be an accurate translation. It can't be an approximate translation. It has to translate the words very accurately. And these words are and we don't know how to translate it exactly.
Where do they take place? Do you know?
These are when they sent off the people carrying the letters.
Ah, okay.
And they were sent on Achashton and Ramochin.
In both cases?
If they don't know how to read Hebrew, it can be written that way. If they don't know how to read Hebrew, how are they going to be yotze? They're going to miss those 3 words. If it's all written in French,
right,
and those 3 words are written in Hebrew,
right, well, you can read it, but you don't understand it.
You have to at least be able to read the Hebrew.
Right. Well, I can explain to him how to read those 3 words.
Is this true for both sets of letters? The same phrase is used when Haman sends them out, and then
no, I think it's just once it mentions.
Okay.
The other similar words, which also might be quite different. It says "achashtar penei hamelech." That's a similar word. It's not exactly the same word. Right. Okay, let's continue. Hagor. Let's get back to the Umar. If it's written in two languages, someone understands them both, he's yotze.
Two languages meaning one of them is not Hebrew. One of them is not Lashon Kodesh. It's written in French and Spanish. 2 different languages. Right. It could be both Lashon Kodesh. Yeah, but not Lashon Kodesh.
It could be one's Lashon Kodesh, one isn't. It could be neither. Written in a mix of 2 languages, he's yotze. And the Mishabur here says, second line says, Yotze b'di eved al lechatchila ein the lechatchila should all be in one language. And which is why it's best it should be written in Lashon HaKodesh, because the whole we mentioned that to write it entirely in a different language would be fine, lechatchila. However, practically speaking, we have the problem of achashtar b'nei Ramochim, which would have to be written in Lashon HaKodesh. So we're going to end up with the Megilla written in 2 languages, which is only b'diavad. So the only way of being yotze lechatchila, because we don't understand the words achashtar b'nei Ramochim, is to write it in Lashon HaKodesh, which is what we do. We write it in Lashon HaKodesh, and everyone can be yotze lechatchila. We mentioned, even if one didn't understand Lashon HaKodesh at all, one's yotze lechatchila.
Just to clarify again, if it was written in 2 languages, let's say half in Hebrew and half in Spanish, the Hebrew part you don't have to understand because it's in Lashon Kodesh, but the Spanish part you have to understand. Correct.
So if Yud Aleph, Yesh limchois b'yat hakorim lenoshim hamegilla b'loshen laz, afal pi sheksuva b'loshen laz. He said one should be moiche against women, people who read to women in a foreign language, even though it's written in a foreign language. Why is this? So the Mishabur mentions Kotten Lamed Zayin. Tam Hadover, Mishum Hagvorim HaKoyrim Mevinim Lashon HaKodesh. The men reading it understand Lashon HaKodesh. V'yish lochosh v'das HaPoskim Shesovim Dehechashim Meidin Lashon HaKodesh. Einu Yotze B'Kriya B'Laz. The person reading it understands Lashon HaKodesh, so he's not yotze when he reads it in a foreign language. Therefore, he wouldn't be able to be motzi someone who doesn't understand Lashon HaKodesh. So therefore, this is one problem. In this case, the women who didn't understand Lashon HaKodesh would have to read the Megillah themselves. They wouldn't be able to have a man who understands Lashon HaKodesh read the Megillah for them. The other problem is this word Achashtoron and Bnei Ramochim. If the Megillah is written in Laz, and they've obviously guessed the translation of Achashtoron and Bnei Ramochim if they've written that in a foreign language. Because we said that we don't know the exact translation. So this is, as we mentioned, this is the reason why, practically speaking, we don't write the Megillah in a different language, even though theoretically one could. Because number one, he mentioned that the person reading the Megillah would have to also be not just the listener, but the reader would also have to be someone who doesn't understand Lashon HaKodesh. And the second problem is Achashtar would have to be written in Lashon HaKodesh because we don't know the correct translation, which would immediately render this Megillah a B'di'eved reading, because it's now a Megillah written in two different languages. Okay, that's why practically speaking we just write it in Lashon HaKodesh. Let's go straight on to the next Seif Yud Beis. Kol Omis Namnein. If he read it while he was dozing off, if he didn't actually fall asleep, then he's yotza.
Hopefully we're talking not about the Balkar.
Talking about the Balkar.
We are talking about the Balkar.
Yes. If, however, he heard the Megillah when he was dozing off, then he's not yotza. Okay. Let's have a look at the Mishnah Sifkot Mem Aleph. It'll explain to us why this is the case. Sifkot Mem Aleph. The reader, seeing as he's reading the words carefully, it's clear that he wasn't properly sleeping, right? Because he's managed to say all the words correctly. If you're the person listening, we're sure he dozed off for a second or two and actually missed a few words. Therefore, it's only if the Baal Korah, the person reading the Megillah, was dozing off, that we're sure he said all the words. If he said all the words, he clearly wasn't properly sleeping.
That would probably only happen once.
Actually, it's an interesting thing.
Because he's reading it for himself. I'm saying if he's reading the Megillah himself, there's no one listening. He's very tired.
Right.
There are people who read the Megillah 8-9 times in a day.
Right.
In different places. Right? And there really is a question at that point: are they actually reading it all the time? Because they're just going over and over and over, and they're very tired, actually.
Yeah. Let's continue. If okay, let's read it quickly. Seif Yud Gimel. He was in the middle of writing the Megillah. Meaning he was Shekor Posuk b'Megillah Shematik. There's one Megillah he's copying from and one he's writing. He reads the Posuk from the one he's writing from the one he's copying from, and then he copies it and he writes it. If he intended to be Yotze with his reading, he's Yotze. He's a Sofer, he reads the Posuk with the Kavanah to be Yotze and then copies it down into another Megillah, he's Yotze. Who should take Suva Kula Lafonov b'Megillah Shumatik Memena? It has to be that the Megillah he's reading from is a kosher Megillah. V'chenim hoya Megilla. So too, if he was checking, someone brought him Megillah to check to make sure if there were no mistakes. So too, and he reads the Megillah just to check it. V'chenim hoya Dorsha. Also, he was explaining the Megillah to someone. He was reading the Megillah and then teaching the Megillah to someone, explaining the meaning of the Megillah. Shekor Posuk b'Megillah Shlema v'Dorsha. He reads one Posuk and then explains it. In Kiven Libo, in all these cases, if he had intention to do the mitzvah, as well as b'mageh, he also has intention to do Yotze the mitzvah. Yotze, he's Yotze. V'lo yafsik bo binyonim acherim k'shadosha. But he mustn't, when he's been explaining the Megillah, he mustn't sidetrack onto different points. He has to stick to the meaning of the Megillah. Also lahafsik bo binyonim acherim. One may not have a break in any other inyonim. We'll continue tomorrow.
That's interesting. So that means that he actually can speak outside of the Megillah. During the time, if he's explaining,
he's explaining the Megillah, that's fine.
And that's part of the Megillah reading.
To read the Megillah and translate each pasuk, it's fine, as long as he doesn't sidetrack.
So the person hearing it is also fulfilled the mitzvah.
Right.
Wow.
That's please correct me if I'm wrong, but that's a misnomer about washing for hamotzi. People think you can't talk at all. If you need salt for hamotzi, you're allowed to ask for salt because it's part of the reason you wash for hamotzi.
Yesterday I asked for a knife.
Nice.
At that point. It's actually a great teaching moment, yeah.